My wife cheated, emptied our joint account, and ran off with her personal trainer. But she had no idea I'd already protected everything, exposed her lies in court, and built a thriving empire without her. The text from Madison hit Ethan's phone like a sucker punch. I'm done. Kyle and I are leaving. Joint account's empty. Good luck. It was a Thursday, 3:17 p.m., and Ethan was sanding a walnut dining table in his woodworking shop, the air thick with sawdust and the hum of a quiet afternoon. Orders were stacked. 3 chairs for a Dallas lawyer, a bookshelf for a retiree in Austin. His artisanal furniture business, built from late nights and calloused hands, was finally steady. He read the message again, the screen smudged from his thumb. No shock, no panic, just a slow nod, like he'd seen this coming for miles. He typed back, "Good luck." Then he pocketed the phone, grabbed the sander, and kept working. The table needed to be perfect by tomorrow. Ethan wasn't the type to unravel, not now, not ever. If Madison thought this would break him, she'd misread the man she'd married. He'd been ready for this. For months, maybe years, he'd sensed the cracks in their life together, the way she'd drifted into someone else's orbit. Kyle, the personal trainer, the guy who'd been a shadow in their marriage for too long. Ethan didn't rage or call her back to beg. He didn't need to. The joint account? He'd already moved what mattered. The business? Ironclad in his name. Madison's betrayal was her move, but Ethan had been playing chess while she thought it was checkers. He finished the table's edge, running his hand along the smooth grain. It felt right. Solid. Unlike the life Madison had just torched. She'd taken the money, sure, but she hadn't taken him. Not the real Ethan, the one who'd built this shop from nothing, who'd learned early that trust is earned and betrayal is planned for. Outside, the Texas sun dipped low, painting the shop's windows orange. Ethan's phone buzzed again, probably her, gloating or backtracking. He didn't check. Instead, he grabbed a broom, sweeping sawdust into neat piles. The mess could wait. So could she. For now, he had work to do. The shop was Ethan's world, a 1,200-square-foot sanctuary of oak, cedar, and purpose. He'd started it 5 years ago after scraping by on odd jobs and a stubborn dream. Every piece he made carried a story. Initials carved under a tabletop, a drawer sized for a client's heirloom Bible. Madison used to love that, back when she'd snap photos for the website or charm clients with her smile. But that was a different Madison, the one from college, the one who'd laughed at his bad jokes and believed in him when the bank didn't. These days, she was someone else, someone who traded their quiet evenings for late-night gym sessions and a life curated for likes. Ethan had noticed the shift. New passwords on her phone, receipts for dinners he hadn't eaten, the way she'd mentioned Kyle like he was just a coworker. He wasn't blind. He'd just chosen not to flinch. Now, with her text burning a hole in his pocket, Ethan felt the weight of what was next. Not grief, clarity. He'd suspected this for months, maybe longer. The late nights, the excuses, the way she'd look at him like he was a piece of furniture she'd outgrown. He hadn't confronted her. Why bother? Words wouldn't fix what was already broken. Instead, he'd prepared. Quietly, methodically, like sanding a rough edge until it was smooth. He locked the shop at 6:30, the sky now a bruise of purple and gold. His truck waited in the gravel lot, a '98 Ford with a dented tailgate and 200,000 miles of loyalty. He climbed in, the leather seat creaking under his weight. The drive home was 12 minutes, enough time to think, not enough to dwell. Madison wouldn't be there, she'd made that clear. Fine, the house was his, legally, thanks to paperwork he'd signed long before her text. As he pulled onto the highway, Ethan's mind wasn't on her or Kyle or the empty bank account. It was on tomorrow, deliveries, invoices, the next order. Madison had tried to gut him, but she'd missed the vital parts. He was still standing, still building, and he wasn't done yet. Ethan Cole didn't believe in fairy tales, but he'd once thought his marriage to Madison was close enough. They'd met at UT Austin, 2 kids from small Texas towns with big dreams and bigger stubborn streaks. He was 20, studying industrial design, sketching furniture ideas on napkins. She was 19, a marketing major with a laugh that could stop a room. Their first date was a $10 or oak made a better table. By senior year, they were inseparable. High school sweethearts who'd dodged the odds and built something real. They married at 24, a backyard wedding in Waco, with string lights and mason jars, her idea. Ethan didn't care about the details, he just wanted her. Back then, Madison was all in, helping him draft business plans for his custom furniture shop, Cole's Craft, while she freelanced branding gigs. They rented a cramped apartment above a bakery, waking to the smell of bread and each other's coffee breath. She'd tease him about sawdust in his hair. He'd call her boss when she tweaked his logo designs. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. The shop opened a year later, funded by a loan and every dime they'd saved. Ethan built tables and chairs by hand, pouring himself into every joint and finish. Madison ran the website, snapped photos, charmed clients who'd pay $5,000, 0 cents, for a dance set. They celebrated their first big sale with cheap wine and a dance in the empty shop, her head on his shoulder, whispering. For a while they did. Cole's craft grew, steady orders, a feature in a local magazine, a second location in the works. They bought a house in East Austin, a fixer-upper with creaky floors and a porch swing. Life felt like a plan coming together. But cracks don't show up overnight. By their 5th year, Madison started to drift. It was subtle at first. Less time at the shop, more time on her phone. She got obsessed with Instagram, posting curated shots of their life, coffee cups, sunsets, her in yoga gear. Ethan didn't get it, but didn't fight it. She'd always loved attention, and he figured it was harmless. Then came the fitness kick. $200 0-cent sneakers, protein shakes, a gym membership she used more than their kitchen. She'd come home late, glowing from workouts, talking about energy and vibes. Ethan nodded, kept sanding, kept building. The distance grew. Dinners went quiet. She'd scroll while he ate, her laughter saved for someone else's posts. He'd ask about her day, she'd shrug, say busy. Intimacy faded. Her touch became a pat on the shoulder, a roommate's gesture. Ethan wasn't blind, but he wasn't the type to beg for answers. He poured himself into the shop, into clients who valued his work. Madison stopped showing up altogether, her branding help replaced by vague promises of new projects. When he'd press, she'd snap, say he was too focused on boring details, that he didn't get her anymore. He saw her slipping into a world he didn't fit in, one of influencers, luxury bags, and captions about living your truth. She'd talk about trips they couldn't afford, dinners at places he'd never heard of. Ethan paid the bills, kept the house running, while Madison's credit card statements piled up with charges for cocktails and spa days. He didn't confront her, not yet. He just watched, cataloging the shift, the way you'd measure a board before cut. By year 7, they were strangers sharing a bed. Ethan lay awake some nights, her phone's glow lighting her face as she typed. He didn't ask who she was texting. He didn't need to. The name Kyle had started slipping into her stories, her trainer, her motivator, the guy who got her new lifestyle. Ethan said nothing, but he felt the ground tilting, not toward. He chose the latter, not out of spite, but survival. Madison was rewriting their story, casting him as the backdrop to her spotlight. Ethan wasn't playing that role. He'd loved her once, fiercely, fully. But love doesn't glue what's already shattered. As he locked the shop each night, he started to see it. The life he'd built wasn't hers to break. It was his, and he'd damn well keep. Madison's keys hit the counter at 11:47 p.m., the jangle cutting through the quiet house. Ethan was in the living room, sketching a new chair design, when she breezed in, gym bag slung over her shoulder, hair damp, smelling of coconut shampoo. Long session, she said, not looking at him, already scrolling her phone. Ethan nodded, pencil pausing. That was the 3rd late night that week. He didn't ask why. He'd stopped expecting answers. It started small, the kind of stuff you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. Her phone got a new passcode, 6 digits, not the 4 they used to share. She'd leave it face down, notifications muted, when she used to toss it on the couch for anyone to see. Ethan noticed, cataloged it like a warped board in his shop. Then there was Kyle. Her trainer's name popped up casually at first. Kyle says I need more cardio, or Kyle's got this new shake recipe. By spring, it was every other sentence, Kyle this, Kyle that, like he was part of their furniture. The gym became her second home. She'd leave at dawn, back after dark, always with a protein shake in hand, $80 0-cent tumbler glinting like a status symbol. New gear piled up, neon leggings, smartwatches, wireless earbuds that cost more than Ethan's table saw. He found a receipt in her car once, $1,200, 0 cents for personal training packages. He didn't bring it up, just folded it, tucked it away, kept sanding. Other receipts turned up. A dinner at Uchiko, $180, 0 cents, dated a Tuesday. He'd been at the shop late. A weekend spa in Houston, $450, 0 cents, when she'd said she was visiting her sister. A boutique in Soco, $700, 0 cents for a handbag he'd never seen her carry. Ethan wasn't a snoop. He found these things by accident, emptying the trash, sorting mail. Each one was a splinter, sharp but not deep enough to bleed, not yet. Her selfies told a story too. Madison's Instagram was a shrine to her new life. Mirror shots in sports bras, beach trips he hadn't been invited on, captions about growth and energy. Kyle was in the background sometimes, tanned, grinning, too close. Ethan scrolled once, late at night, saw a comment. "You two look perfect together." He closed the app. He could have confronted her, could have demanded to know why she'd changed, who she was texting at 2 a.m., why her laughter was for someone else. But Ethan didn't work like that. He'd grown up fixing things. Broken chairs, his dad's old truck, his own mistakes. You don't fix what's broken by yelling at it. You study it, measure it, plan. So he watched. He noted the late nights, the locked phone, the way she'd flinch when he asked about her day. He started a folder in his desk, receipts, screenshots, dates, evidence, not for her but for himself, to be sure. Suspicion wasn't proof, but it was enough to shift his focus. He stopped hoping she'd come back to him, the old Madison who'd sketched logos by his side. That woman was gone, replaced by someone who saw him as an anchor, not a partner. Ethan didn't rage or sulk. He got practical. If she was building a new life, he'd secure his own. Not out of spite, but necessity. He'd built Cole's craft from nothing. He'd build himself back, too. By summer, the red flags weren't just hints, they were neon signs. Madison didn't hide it anymore. She'd leave her gym schedule on the counter, Kyle's name circled in pink. She'd come home humming, eyes bright, like Ethan was just part of the furniture. He'd let her think he didn't see. Let her think he was still the steady, trusting guy who'd never question her. But Ethan was done being blindsided. He'd seen enough to know what was coming, and he'd be ready when it did. Ethan didn't sleep the night he found the Houston spa receipt. It wasn't the $450.00 that kept him up. It was the lie. Madison had said she was with her sister, but her sister hadn't left Lubbock in years. At 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, Ethan decided he was done waiting for the axe to fall. He'd spent months watching her drift, collecting scraps of her betrayal. Now it was time to act. He started small, practical. That morning, he drove to a different bank, one unaffiliated with their joint accounts, and opened a new checking account under Cole's Craft LLC. It was a business move, he told the teller, for better bookkeeping. The truth was simpler. He needed a fortress. Over the next 2 weeks, he siphoned savings, $5,000, 0 cents here, $10, 0 cents there, never enough to tip her off. Madison didn't notice. She hadn't logged into their accounts in months, too busy with her lifestyle to care. He got meticulous. Every questionable expense, her $200 0 cents manicures, $1 50 cents training fees, dinners he never ate, went into a spreadsheet, dates, amounts, vendors. He cross-referenced her gym schedule with credit card charges, spotting patterns. Late-night smoothies, hotel bars, a $300 0 cents wine tab at a place called Perch. Ethan wasn't building a case to win her back. He was building a wall to protect what was his. The house was next. He'd bought it in his name before they married, a fact Madison never questioned. Still, he dug through deeds and mortgage papers, confirming it was untouchable. The shop, too. Cole's Craft was his alone, no shared equity, no loopholes. He'd been careful from the start, not out of distrust but instinct. Growing up with a dad who'd lost everything to bad deals, Ethan learned early. Secure your foundation. Then he met Lindsay Harper. A client recommended her, a divorce attorney with a reputation for shielding high-asset businesses. Her office was no nonsense, all glass and steel like her handshake. Ethan laid it out, the receipts, the texts he'd glimpsed, Madison's pivot to a life that didn't include him. Lindsay listened, jotting notes, then leaned back. "She thinks she's got you cornered," she said. "Let her. People get sloppy when they feel in control." Lindsay's advice was surgical. Don't confront. Document. Don't freeze joint accounts, yet. Track them. Set up alerts for big withdrawals. File for fraud if she crossed the line. She walked him through worst-case scenarios. Alimony claims, asset splits, smear campaigns. Ethan didn't flinch. He'd dismantle this marriage the same way. Lindsay drafted a plan, quiet, legal, airtight, and she makes her move, she said. You'll be 3 steps ahead. He followed her lead, installed a budgeting app to flag odd charges, backed up his evidence to a thumb drive, locked in his shop safe. Checked the joint account daily, watching her spend like she was auditioning for a reality show. $600, 0 cents shoes. $2, 0 cents on a wellness retreat. He didn't stop her. Lindsay was right. Let her think she's winning. Every dollar she burned was another nail in her coffin. By fall, Ethan was a ghost in his own life. He'd work late, eat alone, sleep on the couch when Madison was home. She barely noticed, too wrapped up in her mirror selfies in Kyle's orbit. Their conversations were transactional, bills, groceries, nothing deeper. He didn't care. He was done chasing her shadow. His focus was the endgame, protecting Cole's Craft, the house, his future. When he locked the shop at night, he'd sit in his truck, engine off, and run through it all. Bank statements, Lindsay's checklist, the folder thickening with proof. He wasn't angry anymore. Anger was a distraction. This was about survival, about outsmarting a storm he'd seen brewing for years. Madison thought she'd rewrite their story. Ethan was already editing the ending. Madison's text landed at 3:17 p.m., a Thursday Ethan would never forget. "I'm done. Kyle and I are leaving. Joint accounts empty. Good luck." The words glowed on his phone, smug and final, like she'd rehearsed them. He stood in his shop, sawdust on his boots, and read it twice. No surprise, just confirmation. She'd made her move. She thought she'd gutted him. Earlier that week, Ethan had seen the joint account dip. $12,000, 0 cents, gone in one swipe. He'd set up alerts months ago, so he knew when she'd drained it completely. $47, 0 cents total, funneled to her personal account. Madison didn't know he'd already moved the bulk of their savings, $85, 0 cents, into his LLC's account. She'd taken what he'd left behind, bait in a trap she didn't see. By 4 p.m. she was spending. Ethan's banking app pinged. $3,200, 0 cents. For 2 first-class tickets to Miami. Then $1.80 for a suite at the Four Seasons. He pictured her laughing with Kyle, clinking champagne glasses, thinking she'd won. She'd always loved the spotlight. Instagram posts of living her best life, Kyle tagged in every shot. This was her grand exit, a middle finger to the life she'd outgrown. Ethan didn't call her, didn't text back. He dialed Lindsay Harper instead. "She's gone," he said, voice steady. Took the account, booked a trip. Lindsay didn't pause. "File for fraud now. Freeze what's left." By 5:30, Ethan had submitted claims with the bank, unauthorized withdrawals, backed by months of tracked expenses. The joint credit card locked within hours. Lindsay sent a courier with divorce papers, prepped and waiting for this moment. Ethan signed them in his shop, pen steady, sawdust still in the air. Madison's plan was bold, he'd give her that. She'd spent months, maybe years building this escape. The late nights, the locked phone, Kyle's name woven into her stories. She'd played the part of a wife while plotting her exit, assuming Ethan was too buried in his work to notice. She was half right. He'd noticed. He'd just chosen silence over screams. Her mistake was underestimating him. Madison saw a quiet woodworker, a man who'd sand a table for hours to get it right. She didn't see the guy who'd built a business from nothing, who'd learned to read contracts like battle plans. She thought she'd leave him broken, a footnote in her new life. But Ethan wasn't a footnote. He was the whole damn book. That night, he sat in his truck outside the shop, engine off, watching the stars prick through the Texas sky. His phone buzzed. Madison again. Probably gloating. He didn't check. Lindsay had already flagged the charges as fraudulent. The bank was investigating. The Four Seasons reservation tied to a frozen card wouldn't clear. Those first-class tickets? Non-referred, but the airline would get a fraud alert soon. Madison's victory lap was about to hit a wall. Ethan started the engine. The Ford's rumble a familiar comfort. He wasn't smiling, but he wasn't crumbling either. Madison had swung hard, thinking she'd knock him out. She didn't know he'd been sparring in the shadows, gloves on, ready for the bell. This wasn't the end of his story. It was the start of hers unraveling. Madison's world started crumbling at 6:45 a.m. Austin Bergstrom International Airport, Terminal 1. She strutted to the check-in counter, Kyle trailing with their matching leather carry-ons, her smile all teeth in triumph. She handed over her ID, expecting first-class boarding passes to Miami. The agent frowned, tapped the keyboard, then tapped again. "I'm sorry, ma'am, your tickets were canceled last night. Non-refunded." Madison blinked, laughed sharp. "That's a mistake. Check again." The agent did. Same result. Kyle shifted, glancing at his phone. Madison's voice climbed, drawing stares. "This is ridiculous. I paid $3,200, 0 cents. The agent stayed calm, pointed to a fraud alert on the screen. The card used, Ethan's joint Visa, was frozen. Madison's face flushed, her manicured nails digging into the counter. She tried another card, her personal one. Declined. Kyle muttered something, stepping back like he sensed a storm. Madison dialed Ethan, her call going straight to voicemail. She texted, "What the hell did you do?" No reply. They left the counter, Madison's heels clicking furiously. She called the Four Seasons next, voice syrupy until the clerk cut her off. "Your reservation was voided, Ms. Cole. The card didn't clear." She hung up, hands shaking, and checked her banking app. Her personal account was overdrawn, $1,200, 0 cents in spa charges, $800 vaguely, 1 cents, boutique hauls, no cash left. The joint account, her big score, was locked, flagged for investigation. She texted Ethan again. "You can't do this to me." Silence. Kyle suggested Ubering to a motel. His tone clicked. Madison snapped. I'm not staying in some dump. But options were thin. They ended up at a budget inn off I-35, $89.00 a night, the kind of place with stained carpets and a flickering neon sign. Madison paced the room, phone glued to her ear, angles of sycamore and two held on as ice. They ignored the phone system before the camera flashed. Her texts to Ethan grew frantic. Answer me. Then, accusing, you planned this, you bastard? Finally, pleading, just talk to me. Ethan was 200 miles away, sipping black coffee at his shop, phone face down on the workbench. He'd seen her messages, 18 in total, a spiral from smug to desperate. He didn't answer. Lindsay had warned him, no contact, let the lawyers handle it. The fraud claims were in motion, tying up her spending spree. The Miami suite, the tickets, her whole victory lap gone, unraveled by Ethan's quiet countermove. Madison's Instagram stayed silent, no new posts of living her truth. She tried Kyle's card for dinner, declined too, maxed out from his own bad bets. They ate vending machine chips, her mascara smudging as she ranted about Ethan's spite. Kyle barely listened, eyes on his phone, already texting someone else. By midnight, Madison was alone in the dark, staring at the motel ceiling, her grand escape reduced to a $12.00 Uber ride and a room that smelled like bleach. Ethan locked the shop at 7 p.m., the Texas sky a deep indigo. He climbed into his truck, the engine's rumble steadying his pulse. Madison thought she'd rewritten their story, left him in the dust. She didn't know he'd been rewriting it too, line by line for months. Her betrayal was loud, flashy. Hers. His response was silent, surgical, final. As he drove home, the phone buzzed again. Her name on the screen. He let it ring, the sound fading into the hum of the highway. Ethan sat in Lindsay Harper's office at 8 a.m., the divorce papers spread across her desk like a blueprint. He'd signed them the night Madison's text hit, but now it was time to execute. Lindsay flipped through his folder. Receipts, bank alerts, screenshots of Madison's texts to Kyle, her hubbub out draining the account. This, she said, tapping the pile, is a guillotine. Ethan didn't smile. He just nodded, ready to drop the blade. By noon, Lindsay filed the petition for divorce, citing adultery and financial misconduct. The fraud claims Ethan had lodged with the bank were already in motion, tying up the $47,000 Madison had siphoned. Every charge, her Miami tickets, the Four Seasons suite, her $2.00 handbag spree was flagged as unauthorized, backed by Ethan's meticulous records. The joint accounts were frozen solid, her credit cards useless. Lindsay had looped in a forensic accountant to trace any hidden transfers, ensuring Madison couldn't slip away with a dime. The house and Cole's Craft were locked down tight. Ethan had bought the house solo, pre-marriage, and the business was under his LLC, untouchable by spousal claims. Madison had no stake, no leverage, something she'd never bothered to check, assuming Ethan's quiet nature meant he was careless. He wasn't. Every contract, every deed was ironclad, vetted by Lindsay months ago. When Madison tried to claim emotional neglect, as Lindsay predicted she would, the evidence would bury her. Neglect didn't explain her $1,500 training sessions with Kyle, or the 2 a.m. texts planning their getaway. Madison's lawyer, a slick downtown type named Greg Waller, tried to spin a sob story. He emailed Lindsay, hinting at Ethan's workaholic habits, claiming Madison felt abandoned. Lindsay laughed when she read it aloud to Ethan. "They've got nothing," she said. "Waller's fishing." Ethan stayed silent, picturing Madison's face when she realized her performance wouldn't save her. He'd spent years building a life she'd tried to. Now he'd let the truth do the burning. Lindsay prepped for court like a general. She had Ethan's evidence organized, credit card statements cross-friendly with Madison's gym schedule, showing her workouts aligned with hotel bars and boutiques. The texts were damning, especially the one where Madison bragged to Kyle, "He'll never see it coming." Ethan had seen it, though. He'd seen it for months, maybe years, and turned her betrayal into his shield. He kept working, same as always. The shop hummed orders for a cedar bench, a live-edge desk, a nursery crib. Clients didn't know about the storm brewing. Ethan didn't wear it. He sanded, stained, delivered, his hands steady even as his phone buzzed with updates from Lindsay. Waller was scrambling, asking for mediation. Lindsay shut it down. "No deals," she told Ethan. "She doesn't get a soft landing." Madison tried texting him again. 27 messages now, a mix of rage and desperation. "You're ruining my life. Then can we just talk?" Ethan didn't reply. He'd said his piece with 2 words. Good luck. The rest was for the judge. He pictured her in that motel, Kyle bailing as the money dried up, her Instagram silent for the first time in years. She'd thought she'd write the ending, she'd forgotten. Ethan held. At home he ate alone, chili from a can, the house too quiet without her clatter. He didn't miss her. Not the real her. the one who'd left long before the text. He missed the idea of her, maybe, the college girl who'd believed in him. That was gone, burned away by her choices. Ethan rinsed his bowl, locked the door, and slept on the couch, papers ready for court. The fight was coming, and he was built for it. The Travis County Courthouse smelled of polished wood and old coffee, its third-floor courtroom packed with a hum of anticipation. Ethan sat beside Lindsay Harper, his navy suit pressed, hands folded, face unreadable. Across the aisle, Madison, perched in a tailored blazer, her lawyer Greg Waller whispering in her ear. She dyed her hair platinum since the motel days, a bid to reinvent. She found none. The judge, a graying woman with sharp glasses, called the case. Lindsay stood first, voice clear as she laid out Ethan's petition. Divorce on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. She presented the folder, Ethan's fortress of evidence. Bank statements showing Madison's $47,000, 0 cents withdrawal, flagged as fraud, credit card charges for Miami tickets, hotel suites, $2 0 cents handbag, texts to Kyle, time-stamped and brutal, he's clueless, we're set. Then the kicker, Madison's ha-ha about emptying the account projected on a screen for the room to see. Ethan watched the judge's pen move, her face stone. Madison shifted, her victim act faltering. Waller tried to pivot, claiming Ethan's neglect had driven her to stray long hours at the shop, no emotional support. Lindsay didn't flinch. She called Ethan to the stand, his steps steady, voice calm as he recounted the marriage's decay. Late nights unexplained, Kyle's name in every story, receipts he'd found, lies he'd unraveled. I didn't neglect her, he said, eyes on the judge. She chose to leave. Waller cross-examined, probing for weakness. You never confronted her? Never asked why she was distant? Ethan met his gaze. I saw what she was doing, didn't need to ask. The room felt smaller, Madison's breaths audible. Waller pushed, suggested Ethan's secrecy was manipulative, that he'd trapped her by freezing accounts. Ethan didn't blink. I protected what I built. Madison took the stand next, her story rehearsed. She dabbed her eyes, voice soft, claiming Ethan's work had left her lonely, that Kyle was just a friend, until desperation took hold. The judge's brow lifted at friend. Lindsay stood for cross, dismantling her with precision. You booked first-class tickets with joint funds. Was that loneliness? Madison stammered. You texted Kyle, you don't... No answer. The ha-ha text loomed on the screen, a ghost she couldn't shake. The judge didn't need long. Evidence outweighed tears. Ethan's documentation, spreadsheets, screenshots, bank alerts, was a wall Madison couldn't climb. The house, titled in his name, stayed his. Cole's Craft, his LLC, untouchable. The frozen accounts were released to Ethan, Madison's fraud claims dismissed. She got nothing. No alimony, no assets, not even the car she'd leased with his credit. Waller's emotional neglect argument crumbled. The judge called it irrelevant against Madison's premeditation. Madison's face drained as the gavel fell. She turned to Ethan, expecting, what? Regret? He looked through her, past her, to the life he'd saved. A nod of approval, clean sweep, she whispered. Ethan didn't celebrate. He stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked out, the courtroom's echo fading behind him. Outside, Austin's heat hit like a wave. He loosened his tie, the weight of years lifting. Madison's footsteps followed, a half-run to catch up. Ethan, wait! He didn't stop, her voice cracked, words spilling. Sorry, mistake, please. He turned, just once, eyes cold. You made your choice. Then he kept walking, his truck waiting in the lot, engine ready to carry him forward. The story she'd tried to steal was his again, and he wasn't giving it back. Madison's Instagram went dark the day after the verdict, her grid of curated selfies and best life captions frozen in time. The Austin influencer crowd noticed. Her likes plummeted, comments dried up, whispers spreading like wildfire on X. Did you hear about Madison Cole? Tried to screw over her husband, lost everything. Her social empire built on Jim Muir shots and smug hashtags collapsed faster than her Miami escape. She and Kyle limped on for 2 weeks, holed up in that budget inn off I-35. The motel's hum of trucks and thin walls wore them down. Kyle's charm faded without cash to fuel it. He'd maxed his cards on protein powder and bad bets, leaving Madison to cover their $89 0 cents nights. They fought, loud enough for the neighbors to bang on walls. By week 3, Kyle was gone, his duffel bag and motor. He blocked her number, his ex-bio updated, new chapter, no baggage. Madison had nowhere to go. Her downtown friends, the ones who'd cheered her glow-up, stopped answering texts when she couldn't pay for brunches or nightclub tabs. The lease on her car, Ethan's car technically, was repossessed after the judge's ruling. She sold her $2,000 0 cents handbag for $400, 0 cents on a resale app. enough to rent a U-Haul and limp back to Lubbock, to her parents' split-level ranch. The house smelled of mothballs and regret, her childhood bedroom a time capsule of cheerleader pom-poms and a life she'd sworn she'd outrun. Her parents didn't ask much, just watched her unpack with tired eyes. Madison spun stories, Ethan's cruelty, her unfair loss, blaming everyone but the mirror. She tried X, posting rants about toxic men and karmic justice, but the algorithm buried her. Old followers unfollowed, new ones didn't care. Her reputation, once a glittering shield, was ash. Lubbock's gossip mill churned gold digger, back with nothing. She got a job at a strip mall gym, selling memberships to bored moms and retirees. No personal training, her certification was mostly Kyle's hype. The $12.00 an hour grind stung, each shift a reminder of her Four Seasons dreams. She'd scroll Ethan's business page late at night, Cole's crack now tagged in magazine features, client reviews glowing. He'd won, not just in court but in life. While she sweated under fluorescent lights, dodging her reflection in the gym's mirrors. Madison told herself she'd bounce back. She'd rebuild her brand, maybe start a podcast about surviving betrayal. But the fire was gone. Kyle's ghost lingered in her DMs, random likes from new girls, proof he'd moved on. Her parents' pity grew heavier, their "we told you so" unspoken but loud. She'd gambled on a new life bet at all, on outrunning Ethan's quiet strength. She'd lost, not because he fought dirty but because he didn't have to. One night she found an old photo, her and Ethan at their wedding, laughing under string lights. She stared, thumb hovering over the delete button, then closed the app. Blame was easier than truth. She'd rewrite the story in her head, make herself the hero, but Lubble's stars didn't lie, and neither did the empty bed. Madison Cole, the girl who'd had it all, was a stranger to herself now, and no filter could fix that. Ethan's shop smelled of cedar and ambition, the kind that doesn't shout but builds. 6 months after the verdict, Cole's craft wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Orders poured in, a $12,000 0-cents dining set for a Houston tech bro, a custom bar for a San Antonio chef. Ethan hired 2 carpenters and a bookkeeper, turning his one-man operation into a machine. By spring, he'd opened a second location in Dallas, then a third in Houston. 2 more were planned, Fort Worth, San Antonio, each with his name on the sign, etched in oak. He didn't chase the spotlight, but it found him. A local business journal ran a feature, Ethan Cole, the woodworker who built his life. Then Texas Monthly picked it up, calling him Austin's quiet titan. Reporters loved the angle. Betrayed husband turns hardship into empire. Ethan didn't correct them. The betrayal was real, but it wasn't the fuel. He'd built Cole's craft before Madison, and he'd built it bigger without her. Pain wasn't his story, persistence was. Clients became fans. A brewery commissioned a $20,000 0-cents communal table, Instagram buzzing with shots of his work. He started a mentorship program, teaching kids from East Austin to slane wood, carve joints. It wasn't charity. It was legacy. Ethan knew what it was to start with nothing but a stubborn dream. He'd give them the tools, literal and not. His house, once too quiet, hummed again. Not with Madison's clatter, but with new rhythm. Friends dropping by, a stray mutt he'd named Sawdust snoring on the porch. He'd grill ribs for his crew, their laughter filling the backyard. Ethan didn't talk about the past, but when a reporter asked how he'd done it, he leaned back, beer in hand. You don't dwell on what breaks, you build from what's left. Madison's shadow lingered, not as pain but as a pivot. Ethan used it, branding Cole's craft with resilience. His website swapped her glossy photos for raw shots, his hands on wood, sawdust in the air. Customers ate it up, leaving reviews about authenticity and grit. He didn't plan the irony. Her betrayal, meant to gut him, had polished his edge. Sales hit $2 million 0 cents that year, triple from the one before. He wasn't cocky. Mornings, he'd still sweep the shop himself, first one in, last one out. The work grounded him, measuring boards, checking grain, feeling the weight of a job done right. Success didn't change that. Neither did the interviews, the handshakes from mayors, the invites to chamber galas. He'd show up, nod, then head home to his dog in a cold shinner. X buzzed with his name, post about his stores, his mentorship, his comeback. Ethan didn't read them. He'd seen enough screens to know they lied as often as they told truth. But he kept one post, printed and tucked in his desk. A grainy shot of his first shop, captioned, "Guy lost it all, built it back, respect." Not true. He hadn't lost it all. Madison took money, not his spine. Still, he liked the nod. At night, he'd sit on his porch, sawdust at his feet, the Texas sky wide and honest. He wasn't chasing closure or vengeance. He was living. Shop humming, crew loyal, life his own. 5 locations, millions in revenue, a name that carried weight. Ethan Cole didn't rise from ashes. He'd never burned. He just kept building, one cut at a time. The Austin Community Market buzzed under October's golden light, stalls packed with honey jars, leather belts, and Ethan's cedar coaster, a side hustle for his mentorship kids. He was unloading crates from his truck when a shadow fell across the tailgate. "Ethan?" The voice was soft, familiar, but worn. He turned to see Madison's mother, Ellen, gray streaks in her hair, hands clasped like she was bracing for impact. He looked smaller than he remembered, her eyes carrying a weight he didn't need to name. "Didn't expect to see you here," Ethan said, setting a crate down, his tone even. Ellen nodded, glancing at the crowd. Kids running with kettle corn, couples browsing pottery. "I heard about your shops," she said. 5 now, right? You've done real good." Her voice caught, not with pride, but something heavier. Ethan wiped his hands on his jeans, waiting. He didn't owe her words, but he'd hear her out. Ellen took a breath. "I'm sorry, Ethan, for what she did, for how it all went." She didn't say Madison's name, didn't need to. "We didn't raise her to be like that. I don't know where we went wrong." Her fingers twisted a scarf, eyes on the ground. He could have shrugged it off, said it was fine, let her walk away lighter, but Ethan didn't play those games. "She made her choices," he said, not cold, just true. "Not your fault." Ellen's lips pressed tight, a nod her only answer. She looked at him then, really looked like she was seeing the man he'd become. Shop owner, mentor, name in magazines, not the kid who'd mowed her lawn years back. "You're stronger than most," she said finally. "Always were. I told her that back when, well, you know." Ethan did know. College days, wedding plans, Ellen's hugs when he'd fixed her porch swing. A different life. He didn't flinch at the memory. Didn't let it pull him under. "Appreciate you saying it," he said, lifting another crate. A polite end. Ellen lingered, then reached out, a quick touch to his arm. "Take care, Ethan." She turned, disappearing into the market's hum, her scarf trailing like a ghost. He watched her go, feeling nothing. Not anger, not pity, not the ache he'd half expected. Just a door closing, quiet and final. He went back to work, stacking coasters, joking with a kid about sanding techniques. The market pulsed around him, music, laughter, life. Madison's shadow didn't follow. Ellen's words didn't linger. They were echoes, not anchors. Ethan had built too much to be tethered by either. Later, driving home, sawdust sprawled in the passenger seat, Ethan let the radio hum low. The encounter hadn't shaken him, hadn't stirred old wounds. It was just a moment, like a knot in wood. Something to note, sand smooth, move past. His life was here, the truck's rumble, the dog's snores, the shops waiting for Monday's orders. Ellen's apology was hers to give, not his to carry. He pulled into his driveway, the porch light glowing. No need to forgive or forget, he'd already let go. Not for Madison or her mother, but for himself. The crates in the back clinked as he parked, a reminder of tomorrow's work. Ethan stepped out, sawdust bounding ahead, and locked the truck. The stars were sharp above, the night his own. Ethan leaned back in his office chair, the new Houston shocks hum filtering through the walls. Saws whining, phones ringing, life moving forward. A framed text hung above his desk, Madison's words preserved in glass. "I'm done. Kyle and I are leaving. Joint accounts empty. Good luck." Not a trophy, not revenge, just a reminder. Every scar tells a story, and this one told his. He spent 2 years rebuilding, not just Cole's craft, but himself. 5 locations now, $4 million, 0 cents in revenue. A crew of 22 who'd bleed for him. The kid from Waco, who'd once split $10 0 cents pizzas with a girl who'd break him, was gone. In his place was Ethan Cole, the guy who turned betrayal into a blueprint. He didn't hate Madison, not anymore. Hate was heavy, and he'd shed enough weight. Nights like this, after locking up, he'd drive to Zilker Park, sawdust panting in the passenger seat. He'd walk the trails, city lights flickering through the trees, and think. Not about her, but about the math of survival. Trust too easily, you bleed. Plan too little, you break. He'd learned it young, his dad's bad deals, his own early flops, then learned it again when Madison's mask fell. Preparation wasn't paranoia, it was protection. He'd seen her fall out on X, not because he looked, but because Austin talked. Madison in Lubbock, selling gym memberships, her brand, a ghost. Kyle long gone, her followers faded. Ethan didn't gloat. Her crash wasn't his win, it was just consequence. He'd fought for his life, not hers. The house, the shops, the dogs snoring beside him, that was his victory, built board by board. He started speaking at small business meetups, not for fame, but because people asked, "How'd you do it?" They'd say, eyes wide, expecting a secret. Ethan kept it simple. Know what's yours. Guard it. When it breaks, build better. They'd nod, scribbling notes, but he knew most wouldn't get it. You don't learn resilience from a PowerPoint. You learn it when your world cracks and you're still standing. The frame on his wall caught the light sometimes, her text a quiet taunt. He'd left it up, not to dwell but to anchor. Pain wasn't the enemy. Blindness was. He'd seen Madison shift, her lies, and chosen to act, not react. That choice saved him. The bank accounts, the lawyer, the evidence, tools not weapons. He'd turned her swing into a step forward. Ethan grabbed his keys, Sawdust's tail thumping. The park was calling, the night cool and wide. He'd walk, think, maybe sketch a new design in his head. Cole's craft was eyeing a 6th location, maybe El Paso, maybe beyond Texas. The road was open, his to take. He'd tell anyone who asked, pain's just raw material. Shape it, sand it, make it yours. Progress isn't loud, it's steady, like a table built to last. He locked the office, the frame's reflection fading behind him. Madison's words stayed, but they didn't bite. They were history, a knot in the wood he'd smoothed long ago. Ethan stepped into the evening, Sawdust at his heels, the city's pulse matching his own. He wasn't running from anything. He was walking toward everything. His work, his people, his life. No looking back, just steps forward, each one his own.